Hello again, and welcome back to the Podcast Daily. It is Monday. It is the start of a new week, and thankfully, spring break, this interminable period without Ohio State practice, is over. Well, one more day, and then we'll be back at it. That's Jeremy Birmingham and Bill Landis. I am Austin Ward. So 2 practices are in the books, and Ohio State not going to be available today, but I will be writing at ohiostate.rivals.com. You can join us there using the code DTE30, get a free month. My 5 questions for Ohio State heading into this post-acclimation period of spring ball. So, per tradition, Bill is going to have his opportunity for some things that he's wondering heading into this week, and Berm will also jump in with some things on his mind.
Fantastic.
But Bill gets to go first because his brain is the most precious of them all.
True.
I don't know if that's true. My biggest question, I don't know. Ryan Day sort of hinted at the idea that there wasn't a ton to learn about the quarterbacks, I think, in the first week of spring practice, because I don't think there was a ton of scrimmaging. Certainly wasn't live scrimmaging. They weren't wearing pads. Now that the pads are coming on and there is a scrimmage this Saturday, maybe I wonder just sort of like what he's looking for from them in these competitive settings, because we have some of that from Kyle McCord. Obviously, he has a start. He's played some garbage time reps. We have nothing on Devin Brown aside from the spring game, which is something, I suppose. Although I bet if you asked 100 football coaches what's more valuable, the spring scrimmages that no one gets to see or the spring game itself, they would tell you the scrimmages that are typically behind closed doors, although Ohio State's won't be this year, thankfully. So I think those are going to be much more instructive for Ryan Day and the coaching staff in the quarterback battle than the game on April 16th or whatever that is will be. So kind of laying the groundwork for that, You're getting into these game-like situations that Ryan Day said he wants to orchestrate throughout the spring practice. What kind of situations are you trying to put these guys in to learn more about them?
See, I don't believe that it's actually about game-like situations. I really think this entire thing is just a psychological op. It's just to figure out who's going to win. They're talking to Mick Marotti, and they were talking about Mick Marotti putting these guys through tire polls, making them compete against each other in everything. I think that what happens on the field is probably in some ways less important this spring than how they respond to everything else. So I think it's like a psyop, to be honest. And I'm not even saying that as a joke. I think that the real winner of this starting position is not going to happen until August. So the next 6 weeks or however many weeks they're stretching this out for, because that's what they do, it is really just about who's going to be able to psychologically handle all of the different things they're throwing at them.
So you don't believe that Ryan Day, when he says that he'd love to have a quarterback named after the spring game, you don't think that's true?
I do think it's true he would love to do that. I also think it's true he will absolutely 100% not do that. I think he would like to in an ideal world, but we don't live in an ideal world. So you can't just expect that that's going to happen. There's no way he's going to name a starter after spring ball. And if me doing this, if me saying this on the record is the reverse psychology, twisteroo that he needs to do it, great. But I don't think that's what's happening.
This podcast is a psyop.
Every single day it is. It's a social experiment. I don't even think that Ohio State needs to do it. I know that there's a lot of the school of thought that's popular about, how much leadership you get out of it, how advantageous it can be if you know who your starter is going into the summer workouts. I'm not certain that really is all that meaningful. I think that the guys in the locker room probably have an idea who that is and gravitate towards them anyway. And if you're a strong leader, then that goes doubly. You don't have to be named a starter to be that. The most famous example that comes to mind is JT Barrett not being a starter and still being a captain for the Buckeyes, whatever that was now 8 years ago somehow. But both of these guys, if we start with the premise that we think they're both good enough to help Ohio State win the Big Ten, and we don't think that if Kyle McCord stays in the lead throughout spring, that Devin Brown has any incentive or desire to jump ship as the plan works its way through, just leave it be. I don't know that they have to name somebody officially, although after Saturday, I will make a prediction right now that at least 2 members of the Ohio State beat will ask Ryan Day if somebody has a better day, if that means that they have the lead and if they're going to be the starting quarterback.
Well,
that will definitely happen. That will absolutely happen. Yeah, I just don't know why if Ryan Day is going to like at every turn in spring practice remind us that spring practice is just an extension of camp, why you would limit yourself to try to name a starting quarterback?
How does that work?
Well, Austin, let me tell you. So there's 15 practices in spring, and then when they get to August, when camp starts, that's really like practice 16 of the preseason.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah. Anyway,
I thought that was practice 1 of the fall.
Wrong.
No.
So that's practice 16 of spring. Got it. Okay, cool.
No, it's practice 16 of the preseason.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Got it?
Yeah. I got it. I don't got any idea what the hell Ohio State is doing or going to do at safety, because there are just too many guys, and they're all
too many
particularly special athletes, and I don't really have a concept of how they plan on deploying all these guys. And so that's really one thing I want to see this week, especially on Saturday. The idea that Josh Proctor and Lathan Ransom and Cameron Martinez, who were the guys when we were in the first practice, those are the 3 that were out there first. I struggle to imagine that those 3 are going to be the starters come September. But again, maybe this is a position where it doesn't matter that much who really is the starter necessarily versus, the situational deployment of them. But how do you figure out the roles for all these guys, especially when some of them are similarly built? It's not like you're going to put Josh Proctor in the slot, even though he's athletic enough to do it. It's not like you're going to put Sonny Styles in the slot, but he's athletic enough to do it. Like, where do you find time and space to develop all these guys and to not put somebody in a position where they feel like they have absolutely no shot and have to just leave as soon as spring's over? Or is that what you're kind of expecting? You know what I mean? That's, you're looking at 9, potentially 10 guys in that room if Ohio State's able to land that Notre Dame release of Brandon Hillman. So like, how do you handle that from here? And I think for a guy like Perry Eliano, who that group was really good for the first 6 weeks of last year and then fell off pretty significantly, I wonder if there's a different mindset heading into year 2 for him.
Do you consider like an amoeba defense, if you will, of like JT Tuimoloau and then 10 safeties?
I do, but I don't think that would work.
I mean, if you're light on defensive tackles, why not?
I would do it.
It's sort of like shifting to the 5-out college basketball offense. Ohio State's defense is going to usher in the 1-10 system. I don't know. I'm curious more what Bill's read on that situation is, because I've said on several occasions that my question is the same as Berm's. I have no idea how they're going to line up. I know that they could do it in pretty much an infinite amount of ways, really. I mean, not truthfully, not literally, but they could do 20, 30 different variations with those guys and line up in a bunch of different ways. And maybe that's what they want. But I don't really have any clue if they played at Indiana this weekend, if it, instead of a scrimmage, it was a game, I don't know how they would line up.
So like Perry Eliano, when we talked to him on signing day, was talking about like it's a clean slate for the position group, which is fine. Like I suppose that makes sense, but does anybody really think that like Lathan Ransom's not going to play? And does anybody really think that like Sonny Styles isn't going to play? So it almost feels like they do have 9-10 safeties, but are they competing for one spot? Is there only one job available in that position group? I don't know. That maybe that's not quite the way of things, but it's hard for me to envision a scenario where Lathan and Sonny aren't playing a ton, and there's some flexibility there because I think Sonny could play both deep spots. Lathan could play all 3 spots. So that's not just to say that the only spot that's available is the nickel position. But I don't know if I think they're going to have to rotate more eventually long term. That's more of a season proposition than it is spring ball. But even if that is the case, I still think that like Sonny and Lathan are going to be on the field like 70-80% of the time. And then that limits things for everyone else. And like if you're like a guy like Jahad Carter, like you came here clearly thinking that there was a starting job available for you. Otherwise, why would you come here? So I don't know. It's not a bad problem to have. I think it's a rather good problem to have. But I have a hard time seeing it end with Ohio State entering like the month of May with still this many safeties on the roster because of that.
I worry that it turns into a jack of all trades, master of none type situation for 7 or 8 of those guys. And you end up being put in positions where you get burnt on something because you don't really know what you're doing in that spot because you've been repping 6 different spots in practice, and you're playing outside corner, and you're playing slot safety, and you're playing slot corner, and you're playing deep safety, and you're playing the rover, and you're playing the bandit, and you're playing the Kool-Aid man, like whatever the positions are now. Like, I think there's a potential risk for like guys not really being able to develop fully into a spot if you don't have a clear delineation of like, this is your spot, figure it out. Like, and that's something that we saw last year for sure with Cam Martinez, when he's put into action at the end of the year and forced to play against wide receivers one-on-one, when the guy, you're never in those situations in practice. So I don't know. It's just that spot is puzzling to me.
I have another prediction, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that on Saturday, the first time we see the starting units for both sides of the football, Josh Proctor will be out there and Sonny Styles will not be. And that will lead into a major freak out in the post-practice media scrum.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be the older guys, Lathan and Josh and Cam. And I'm sure they'll rotate those guys through, but everyone, and listen, like I'm guilty of this too. Like, everyone's going to try to get the depth chart nailed down on Saturday after the first spring scrimmage. So whatever we see on the first snaps for the offensive defense is set in stone and will be the case when Ohio State gets on the field against Indiana.
And I think part of it is with Josh Proctor as well. I've mentioned this before. I'm as guilty as anybody, and maybe more so than anybody else. But I know that the coaching staff falls in love with his athleticism the same way that anyone who just sees him do anything is going to be like, that guy is an NFL safety. It's got to happen. It's going to happen this time. And I vowed to tap the brakes this spring. But again, they're seeing some of the work ethic shine through as well. Like during the middle of spring break last week, we were in there for the mini pro day, and who was out there working out on his own? It was Josh Proctor. So it's not like he does everything that a coaching staff would like. And I think that's why he'll keep getting opportunities potentially on Saturday to be a starting safety. What happens from there, I'm going to retire from making predictions when it comes to Josh Proctor. I'm going to try to. But I know that that's why he keeps being in these situations and why we'll probably see him getting an opportunity to take the next step again on Saturday.
Yeah, if there's a position which is like heat-seeking missile, put him out there and let him go do stuff. But that's not the way you can play defense anymore. And
you mean the jack position?
That's the Kool-Aid man.
Oh, whatever position. If that exists, they should put Josh Proctor at that. Like, I wonder if Josh Proctor could play the jack. Do you think he could play it? We've only spent a lot of time talking about everyone on the defense being put into the jack role, and we didn't mention Josh Proctor. So now let's petition for Josh Proctor to the jack.
Yeah, I think you need to weigh more than like 220 pounds to like stick your nose in the B gap in every play.
Call it the Josh. No, I don't know.
But
go ahead, Austin. Sorry, I was just.
I like your idea. He could play the Kool-Aid man, like just running through a brick wall. You said you wanted a heat-seeking missile. Let's make it happen. Josh Proctor as the Kool-Aid man.
I'm in.
I think that is the thing. Like that, Jim Knowles said it about him, and I think we've heard it from other people too. Like when you give him a directive, go do this thing, he's very good. When there's a lot on his plate and he has to make decisions and like survey the entire field, I think sometimes he gets himself into a bind. So I think you can still certainly can utilize his athleticism, and maybe it is like, hey Josh, you're on the field now. Your job is the guy standing in the backfield directly behind the center. Go take his head off. We're like, okay, maybe that's what Josh Proctor's role is on the defense this year.
There is a Wisconsin quarterback.
A little bit of water boy.
There's a Wisconsin quarterback out there somewhere who has nightmares of Josh Proctor, and I think that's he provide. I don't remember the guy's name, and he probably doesn't either.
Jack Cohn.
But either way, like that's what you want out of Josh Proctor. That sort of just free running, go absolutely decimate someone, and the Ohio State defense right now doesn't really allow that when you have the safeties being in charge of everything else. And I think that's sort of where there's this confusion between what Josh is best at and what Ohio State needs from its safety position.
Bill, I think, has questions about the offensive line.
Yeah, I do. Good guess. This is like, I guess when it gets real for that group, I still think, like, based on the conversation I think we had last week, right, about what they're going to do at left tackle, if they've considered just throwing everybody out there and seeing who does best, or if they just want to keep Josh there and let him get comfortable. I don't know what the right course of action is. I just know they need to get it right. But I remember last year and Ryan Day kind of said this too. Like last year, in the middle of spring, all we kept hearing was like, this defensive line is awesome, and the offensive line can't block them. And Ryan Day said the same thing when we talked to him now 2 weeks ago on the first day of spring practice. Like, it took a while for that group to get up to speed and sort of become the equal of the defensive line. And I think that actually carried into the summer too, before that really started to even out. So I'm trying to sort of control my reaction if we see that on Saturday, and it does feel like the defensive line is routinely getting the best of the offensive line. I don't think that's the end of the world. But I wonder about that a little more in a world where there's new guys up there with not a lot of experience, maybe what that could do to the psyche of an offensive lineman who's trying to win a job and trying to develop. If he gets out there and it's just like, man, I can't block Tyleik Williams. Like, how am I going to block whoever's playing nose tackle for Wisconsin in October? So I think how they manage that will be interesting. I thought coming into the spring that over the course of time, I'll feel better about where they're heading with the offensive line. And I don't know that I necessarily feel worse. I just feel like maybe I didn't have enough of an appreciation for how much they have to get done up there.
Right.
Yeah. You mentioned psyche, and when I'm thinking psyche, I'm thinking of the running backs, because you were heading into spring with really Dallin Hayden and Chip Trainum as the guys we expect to carry the rock for the entire spring. But in the two practice viewing windows we've seen Mayan Williams and Travion Henderson both out there trying to do probably more than Ohio State would want them to do this spring. And I think that that's something that's going to continue to be a fight for them, because those kids are in a position right now where they've realized they're in their money year, really, for both of them. And you have Dallin Hayden, who you want to make sure you give the ball to. And it's another position where I'm wondering how Tony Alford is going to be able to handle the psyches, not egos necessarily, but after everything that happened a year ago with Travion Henderson and the way that last season went for him, I think that there's a real risk of him trying to do too much too fast and push too hard. And the mistakes that I think led to last year's inefficiency with him, which was trying to hit a home run all the time in a lot of cases, or just not seeing things because he was, maybe trying to do too much. I think you run the risk of that happening again if there's not a real controlled push here to make sure that these guys understand what everyone's role is going to be and when. Because if it's just a straight up open competition, I think you're going to see those guys do way more than they need to. And I think that's something that it could be a concern heading into summer.
That's a good point. You hope that, if you're Tony Alford and sitting down with Travion Henderson, that Trey looks at last year and says, well, that didn't work. I'm going to grow up, be more patient, do these things. And to go back to the broken record, once JK came to that realization, his junior season was vastly different, and he became the player that everybody expected him to be as a freshman because he got out of that. Now, his situation was a little bit different than what Travion will be in with Mayan and with Chip and with Dallin Hayden around. And once you throw Evan Pryor back in the mix when he's healthy, there weren't 5 running backs, pushing to take away carries from J.K. Dobbins during his junior season. So, Will Travion follow on that same path? That's certainly the hope. And Ohio State's been through that process and growth before. So that will be fascinating to watch, because we know that out of everybody on that roster, the ceiling is the highest for Trey.
Would you consider just not giving anyone carries in the spring to avoid that situation altogether? Sorry, guys, we have no body of work here. We'll just have to wait till the summer, and then we'll let you all battle then.
I would.
Well, we thought that might happen, and they could just blame the defense. There's not enough guys to go to inside drill today. Sorry, we're not going to run the football. And then Ryan Day's like, nope, we're fine. We can roll through. He said we had a 3 deep. I'm like, that math doesn't make sense.
I think when you have known quantities at running back, you have a lot of uncertainty at wide receiver beyond the starting 4. You need to figure that out. You need to parse that out. You need to figure out who can pass protect on the offensive line. You need to figure out which quarterback is going to be better throwing the football. You need to figure out a lot of stuff in the secondary. I swear I wouldn't really run the ball at all in scrimmage type situations for Ohio State. I would just let the individual stuff go in practice, let the position group stuff go in practice. But as far as actually feeding people the ball in a scrimmage situation, don't do it. No point.
I think I actually agree with that. The only reason I wouldn't is if Justin Fry was really going to revamp Ohio State's run game, but as much as I would love to see that happen, or not revamp, but let's just introduce some new stuff and make it a little more interesting. I think they'll probably still keep doing what they've done always under Ryan Day. and just hope to execute it better. So if that's the case, then I agree with you. Like ball in the air is what Austin said on a radio interview a couple weeks ago now, and that should be the theme for Ohio State's spring, because the defense needs it and the offense certainly needs it.
And it's what we want to watch.
And it's what we want to watch, yeah.
And really, at the end of the day, this is all about us.
Well, you'd like to think so. It should be. Will it be? Probably not.
No.
Could be. Won't be.
Should be.
Shan't be.
Hey,
Anything
which one
else
of
on
us-
your mind, Bird?
I want to talk
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
the Purdue basketball team and Matt Payne, who Ohio State,
Hey, it's more on Monday.
as an administration, Ohio State should be sending a giant plaque to Matt Painter and Purdue. And it can be a 2-part plaque. Part 1 can say, hey, you ruined our season. But also, you have the worst loss in the history of the conference when it comes to the NCAA tournament, taking a title that we held for a very short period of time. Thank you. No one will ever suck worse than you did against Fairleigh Dickinson, and we owe you a debt of gratitude. So kudos, Matt Painter. But also, in seriousness, that's an embarrassing loss. But I do think Matt Painter deserves a lot of credit for the way he handled it post-game. And that dude took some, I mean, he was up there at the podium for a while and took some heat. And like that, boy, oh boy. Do you have a guy who's 7'4", 310 pounds, and it's like he couldn't hold the basketball that day? And this is something I've talked about. The Big Ten, the way that it officiates, how many of those plays against Zach Edey on Friday night would have been called fouls in the Big Ten?
All of them.
All of them. So, like, you do yourself a terrible disservice because you get to the tournament and they're not calling all this ticky-tack crap that they call all the time in the Big Ten. Fairleigh Dickinson would have fouled out 7 guys in the middle of Big Ten season if they were playing the way that every time Edey touched the ball, he had 2 or 3 guys draped all over him, but they didn't call it. So who cares? And it's wild how the Big Ten continues to put itself in that situation because its officiating is so putrid during the year.
I do think a few of those guys had called Purdue games. All 3 of the officials in that game had called Purdue games at certain points previous in the season, but not a ton of them, and it was called vastly differently from a typical Big Ten game for sure.
Anything else on your mind, Bill?
One, I think you can make the claim that was the Big Ten's worst loss ever.
I actually thought about that versus Michigan and Appalachian State in 2007 and how it stacks up.
Yeah, it's like Fairleigh Dickinson is bad. It's not even like, oh, they're like a plucky upstart. They weren't even supposed to be in the tournament. And
That's
had like
the craziest part about it. This is the worst team to ever get in the tournament.
Yeah. And they're the smallest team in the country, and they're just awful, and they beat Purdue somehow. I don't know. It's entertaining. My final question is, which of the 3 of us do you think would make the best Kool-Aid man on the football field?
That's got to be Berm. He's
Yeah,
got
Berm.
the most juice out of the 3 of us by far.
It's a wild card.
I disagree. It's clearly Bill. I mean, what are we doing? I mean, what are we doing? These 6'6", 330 Bills.
You have the mindset, though.
I would certainly try to run through a brick wall. I don't know if it would work. I'd end up concussed and alone.
You would just dab your way right through it.
I would
and
try.
The bricks would fall.
I'd like run to the wall. I would stop. I would approach the wall with some conversation. I would ask the wall if it really needs to be there, why it's feeling like it needs to be impeding me at that moment. If there's a potential, arrangement we can figure out as far as letting me go by this time, and then I'll let the wall stand there. I don't know. There's probably some sort of compromise that we could come up with, but I don't think I'd be able to go through it. Bill is clearly the answer.
Just because he's the strongest?
Yes.
That's so simple.
I don't even know if that's true.
I mean,
I'm big for no reason. Also, we were talking about my son and how long his arms are, so that made me want to measure my wingspan, and my wingspan is pretty short for a guy as tall as I am.
but that's
So I don't
only going to help as far as getting through the wall. You don't have all these extemporaneous parts.
You need leverage.
Yeah, you don't need all
You
these.
need leverage.
No, I mean, it's about straight line speed through the wall.
Oh, 4 to 6, A to B.
That's right.
Competitive excellence.
That's all you really need if you want to win this battle.
Kool-Aid.
If Kool-Aid wants to sponsor the show, that'd be pretty cool.
I love
Yeah.
Kool-Aid.
Hey, since we're not talking about Kool-Aid, what was your favorite flavor of Kool-Aid growing up?
I don't know what they're called, just like red. I don't know. I don't.
You know the names of Kool-Aid?
Only one, because it was the best Kool-Aid. It was Purple Saurus Rex. It was like a grape lemonade. It was amazing.
That sounds like a high C flavor, not
Nope.
Kool-Aid.
Nope, that's where they get you. See, you're thinking of like Ecto Cooler. That's high C, but Purple Saurus Rex was in fact a Kool-Aid flavor, and it was like a grape lemonade. It was great.
It was grape?
No, it was great.
Grape.
That's probably a good spot.
Got
to
it.
end this.
Yeah, it sure is. I don't know any of the flavors of Kool-Aid, Berm. I'm sorry. I don't.
Are you just one of those people who calls it the flavor by the color? Like, oh, I like blue. Like,
Yeah,
it's actually
I think blue was my favorite. That's right. Like it was a light blue neon. Definitely going to give you cancer. That's the kind that. That's
well,
the
now
kind
they're
that I
not going to
have.
sponsor us.
it's the kind they put in your veins when you're getting X-rays done.
Yeah, it turns you into a Ninja Turtle.
Again, I think that was a high C flavor.
Oh, well, you can see that we were more of a high C family than Kool-Aid. No offense to Kool-Aid,
Yeah, you had that.
which would be a great sponsor for the program.
Sure would be. I'm done with this conversation. We should hang up now.
You started it. This has been the Podcast Daily for Monday. Practices for Ohio State on Tuesday and Thursday, and a scrimmage on Saturday. We'll have full coverage on the podcast and at ohiostate.rivals.com. You can use code DTE30 to get a free month. That will take you all the way through the spring game and get you excited for the thrilling offseason to come after that. We'll be at Roosters later on Monday for the live show in the Horseshoe Lounge. Don't miss that. Got a couple of special guests expected to join us for that. So stay tuned. Then we'll be back tomorrow morning as we get ready for practice in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center and Ryan Day's press conference. For Berm and Bill, I am Austin Ward. Thanks for joining us on the Podcast Daily. We'll see you later.